Imagine a civilization so powerful, so wealthy, that the mighty Roman Empire saw it as an existential threat. A civilization that Rome didn't just want to defeat, it tried to erase it from existence. This is the story of Carthage, the empire that was almost wiped from the pages of history for centuries. Carthage was the master of the Mediterranean. Situated in modern-day Tunisia, its strategic ports controlled the sea lanes, making it a hub of trade and commerce. Carthaginian merchants sailed from the coasts of Africa to the shores of Spain, trading in textiles, metals, and precious goods. Their ships were marvels of engineering, their wealth was legendary, and their influence stretched across the sea. But as Carthage grew, so did a rival power on the Italian peninsula, Rome. Two titans, destined for a collision that would shake the ancient world, the rivalry between Rome and Carthage exploded into a series of conflicts known as the Punic Wars. The most famous of these was the Second Punic War. Thanks to one of the greatest military minds in all of history, Hannibal Barca. Into 18 BC, Hannibal did the unthinkable. He led his army, including his famous war elephants, on a treacherous journey across the Alps to invade Italy from the north. It was a move of pure genius, catching the Romans completely off guard. Hannibal's campaign was a masterclass in strategy. He inflicted one devastating defeat after another upon the Romans. At the Battle of the Trebia, he outmaneuvered a larger Roman force. At Lake Trasimene, he ambushed and annihilated an entire Roman army. But his greatest triumph came at the Battle of Cannae. Using a brilliant pincer movement, Hannibal's smaller army encircled and crushed a massive Roman force, resulting in one of the deadliest single days of battle in history. The fields of Cannae were soaked with Roman blood, and the city of Rome itself was gripped by terror. For years, Hannibal rampaged through Italy, a constant, terrifying reminder of Carthaginian power. Roman mothers would frighten their children into obedience with the words, "Hannibal is at the gates." Although Hannibal was eventually defeated, not in Italy, but back in Africa, the memory of his campaign left a deep and permanent scar on the Roman psyche. Rome had been humiliated on its own soil. The fear of Carthage, the fear that it could rise again and threaten Rome once more, became an obsession. This obsession was famously personified by a Roman senator named Cato the Elder. After every speech he gave in the Senate, regardless of the topic, he would end with the same chilling phrase, "Carthago delenda state, Carthage must be destroyed." It became a mantra, a drumbeat for total war, echoing through the halls of Roman power. Rome decided that coexistence was no longer an option. Carthage had to be annihilated. In 149 BC, Rome found its pretext for a final, decisive conflict, the Third Punic War. This wasn't a war between equals, it was an act of extermination. The Roman legions laid siege to the magnificent city of Carthage. For 3 long, brutal years, the people of Carthage endured unimaginable suffering. They were blockaded, cut off from food and supplies. Starvation and disease swept through the city's streets. Yet, they refused to surrender. They melted down statues for metal to forge new weapons and armor. The women of Carthage cut off their long hair to be woven into ropes for catapults. They fought with a desperation born of knowing what defeat would mean. Finally, in 146 BC, the Roman walls were breached. What followed was not a battle, but a slaughter. For 6 days, Roman soldiers went from house to house, killing anyone they found. The city that had once been the jewel of the Mediterranean was systematically looted and burned to the ground. The fires raged for days, turning magnificent temples and bustling markets into ash and rubble. The Roman commander, Scipio Aemilianus, is said to have wept as he watched the destruction, quoting a line from Homer about the fall of Troy, knowing he was witnessing the end of a great civilization. But death and destruction were not enough for Rome. They wanted to erase Carthage from memory itself. The 50,000 survivors of the siege were rounded up and sold into slavery. According to legend, the Romans then plowed the earth where the city once stood and sowed it with salt, a symbolic curse to ensure that nothing would ever grow there again. Whether the salt story is literal truth or a later embellishment, the intent was clear: this place was to be forgotten, forever barren. The physical destruction was followed by a cultural one. Roman forces destroyed Carthage's libraries and archives, which held centuries of knowledge, literature, and history. The story of the Punic Wars, and of Carthage itself, would now be told exclusively by the victors. Roman historians painted Carthage as a cruel, treacherous, and barbaric enemy, a villainous empire that deserved its fate. This one-sided narrative was so effective that for 2,000 years, our main source of information about Carthage came from the very people who destroyed it. We saw Carthage through Roman eyes as a rival, an enemy, a footnote in the grand story of Rome's rise to glory. So, what was the real Carthage like? What was lost when its libraries returned to ash? Thanks to modern archaeology and a more critical reading of ancient texts, we are slowly rediscovering the lost civilization. We've unearthed the remains of its impressive circular harbor, a testament to its maritime genius. We've found evidence of a sophisticated urban society with a rich artistic and religious culture. We know they were brilliant innovators in agriculture and governance. Carthage was not just a military threat to Rome. It was a vibrant, complex civilization with its own unique identity and achievements. The story of Carthage's destruction is a powerful lesson in how history is written by the winners. It's a reminder that what we know of the past is often a carefully constructed narrative, and that entire cultures can be silenced if their voices are erased. The fall of Carthage wasn't just the end of a city, it was the deliberate extermination of a people's memory. It stands as one of history's most chilling examples of total war, where the goal was not just to defeat an enemy, but to ensure they would be forgotten forever. But history has a way of revealing its secrets, and today, the ghost of Carthage is finally re-emerging from the shadows, telling its own story, the story that Rome tried so desperately to bury. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the past.